¿Cómo estás, people? So, Matt here again in another video. We're going to call this one Week 5 Lessons Learned. We're, for some of you, halfway through your fantasy football season. For mine, our regular season is 13 weeks long. So, we're really getting to that point where it's time to evaluate what you have and where you're going with your lineup. So what lessons learned is, being a good fantasy football player means more than just how many points that you score that week. I have players on my bench this week that outscored my starters, but I'm not mad that I left them on the bench. I did that by design. Sometimes it's far better to let a maybe star sit on your bench, score some points, rather than risk start them and possibly taking a 0. The good news is that I scored a ton of points, and I won my matchup easily this week. But the better news is that I got an outstanding performance or two from my bench players, and now I have far more confidence going forward in starting these guys while my main starters start to go on bye weeks. That way, my goals as a fantasy football players is for my role players to get me past the bye weeks, and then maybe trade them for a piece or two when my better players have finished their bye weeks, and I'm kind of cruising towards the playoffs at that point. Because you have to remember that winning a championship is about 9 or 10 guys that you start, and not about your bench in the end. If you have serious doubts on who you're starting on a week-to-week basis come playoff time, then you built it wrong, in my opinion. You need to build your team for depth in the beginning and then a solid core to go win you a championship the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. So with all that said, week 5 brought us what I call breakout stars, people who made a name for themselves that maybe you didn't think of before. Some what I call fool's gold, people who might have had a good week or a good couple weeks, but you should really stay away from them. Some what I call pump the brakes thoughts. It means it's not as bad as you think, bro. Just calm your tits. And then, some players you really got to worry about, or, panic button time players. So let's break down what we saw this week. As far as breakout stars, Sony Michel is my first breakout star that I have here. Rex heads on IR. Michel is clearly the number 1 early down back for the Patriots. And the Patriots aren't trailing in many games. So it's not really going to be, panic, we got to throw the ball over and over mode for the majority of the weeks. So the fourth quarter and, early goal line sets. Excuse me. Michel's going to get touchdown runs. He's kind of like LeGarrette Blount when he scored, I think it was 18 touchdowns in a season a couple years ago. He's going to get that type of workload. And just watching this guy actually sit there and run the ball, he hits the hole hard. He's quick and he's not afraid of contact. And I think Sony Michel is going to be a great running back. This guy could be the second coming of Curtis Martin for all we know. I think he's a top 10 back every single week for the remainder of the season, obviously besides his bye week. He's owning 89% of standard league, so more than likely you're not going to be able to pick him up on the waiver wire. But someone might be selling low for him right now because he hasn't fully had that breakout game. He hasn't had like a 20-point outburst. It's more like, the 10 to 15 in standard format, a little bit higher in a PPR league. But he's usually not the one catching passes. He's more of a running back. The next one is, one of my favorites, Kiki Cutie. I hate his fucking name. It bothers the shit out of me. But Nonetheless, this man had 11 catches for 109 yards in his first game last week. He had 6 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown on Sunday Night Football under the big lights. He's got a good rapport with Deshaun Watson already. He looks like he likes throwing to him out of the slot. Deshaun Watson is in that type of offense where it's a lot of bootlegs, a lot of read option, a lot of really outside the pocket type of plays. And in those type of offenses, the slot guy who can get open typically is going to be a highly targeted wide receiver. And it looks so far that the amount of targets that Cuty's getting is impressive. He's absolutely worth an ad, and um, he could end up being someone big during your bye weeks. And honestly, he could be big enough where he could be something you could package together to get an even better player after your regular starters are done with their buys this season. He's only owned in 19.6% of leagues. If you got room on your roster for a guy, this is my number one waiver claim for the week. David Moore. This guy is quickly moving up the depth chart in Seattle. He's already passed Brandon Marshall. He is the third option, but I really see good potential in David Moore. He's not someone I'd pick up and start this week, but he would be the perfect pickup and stash. Like I said at the beginning of the video, there are players that you sit on your bench for a couple weeks, kind of like training camp or something. And I understand these are all real regular season games he's playing in, but this type of stashing really gives it an opportunity. It's risk free. Keep on your bench. He's not losing you points. Probably better than like a Mohamed Sanu that'd be sitting on your bench who sucks. I don't care what he's been doing the last 3 weeks. You sit him on your bench. You don't worry about it. You hope he goes off. So then when you need him, he could be there. I'd say in about 2-3 weeks, we could be talking about David Moore as a good, legitimate wide receiver. Pick him up now. He's owned in 0.1% of leagues. This way, when he becomes a real big threat, you have him on your roster. And when everybody's like, oh, he's owned in 26.8% of leagues, go get him. And your league goes to look for him. It's like, oh, mofo, I picked that guy up 2 weeks ago. Way ahead of the curve. What I call fool's gold. These are people who have been having decent weeks or had a good week. Might have shown you something, but don't trust them. My first one's Alfred Blue. He got the start this week over Miller. He had 11 points in standard scoring this past week. But I'm going to say buyer beware. He's owned in under 20% of leagues, so he's going to be a big waiver pickup this week. I know it. The problem is Lamar Miller didn't lose his job. He was hurt in there for emergency purposes only. So if they didn't need him, they weren't going to play him. And honestly, that game went overtime against a crappy Dallas Cowboy team. And honestly, they could have used Lamar Miller in that game. Alfred Blue had under 3 yards per carry. He was absolute garbage actually toting the football. Don't fall for this. Alfred Blue has been around since Arian Foster was their running back. And I remember Arian Foster would pull a hammy. Alfred Blue would come in and rush for 29 yards. But that's what he does. He doesn't have big games. He's not a good football player. He's a decent change of pace back. He'll get like 10 or 15 yards rushing on a drive to let your real good running back, catch a breather. But he is not the answer. Do not waste your waiver claim on Alfred Blue. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Now, most of you guys know this guy from this week. He scored a ton of points for the Packers. But the problem with this guy is he is the fourth option. He is not on the field. This man played under 15% of total snaps when the Green Bay receiving core was healthy. And Geronimo Allison will probably be cleared for contact this week after his concussion. And Randall Cobb's going to come back soon as well. When those two are back, this Scantlin fella is garbage. And there's way too much good on the waiver wire this week for you to blow your claim on Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He was a hope you started him this past week. If you'd said, hey, all these Green Bay receivers are out, I'm going to start this Scantling guy, that was a smart move. Anybody who actually went and did that, good for you. You should have done that. If you had gone to my page right before the game started, when I found out both of the guys were there, I absolutely told everybody to pick up Valdez-Scantling, and you could drop him at the end of the week. It was very specific. Pick him up, drop his ass once the week's over, because this is his boomer bust. Next is Robbie Anderson. So I'll be honest with ourselves. Motherfucker plays for the Jets, okay? Robbie Anderson's games the past 3 weeks before this week, 1 point, 0 points, 0 points. There is no way you can take a player like Robbie Anderson, even if he dropped 26 points in standard fantasy. You have to understand that the Jets any week can drop a bag of their receivers. Quincy Newman was supposed to be his main target week 1 and 2. And then what does he do this past week while Robbie Anderson goes off? Scores a fucking 0. Because that's what happens. And Robbie Anderson only had 3 goddamn catches this week. Just caught 2 big ones for touchdowns. He scored 26 points on 3 catches. Let's all understand how lucky that is. And don't be dumb enough to draft Robbie Anderson. I seen articles out there that say Robbie Anderson broke out of his shell. No, he caught 3 goddamn passes for a ton of yards and had 1 good game. That's the most Deshaun Jackson thing I've seen this season. Seriously, do not trust Robbie Anderson. He is absolute fool's gold. So my pump the brakes section. This is really when I'm just telling you, listen, this might have looked bad or he might look bad lately, but give the guy a chance. He's going to be fine. And these players are also players that you can go out and try and trade for. You might be able to buy low on these guys. Really not give up as much as you want, because someone might be dumb enough not to watch my video and understand that these people are good. First one's Devonta Freeman. Listen, it was his first week back. These guys are normally on a pitch count on their first week back, so you really shouldn't take too much stock in the fact that he had a down week. I honestly wouldn't have started him this past week, knowing that he was coming back and facing a defense that was bad against the pass, but decent against the run. It was well documented. But normally they give you like 10 carries. I think he had a little bit less than that. I think he had like 8. So Devonta Freeman, he's going to be fine. Trust me. This guy will be there to help you win a fantasy championship at the end. And if you see someone who's undervaluing him right now in your league and you don't have him, go try and trade like a Chris Carson for him and see if you can get something. Or, package like Chris Carson and maybe like a Jarvis Landry or something like that. Get some bang for your buck. Trust me, you won't be upset that you got rid of 2 players for 1 if you got Devonta Freeman at full strength come the end of the season. My next one is Julian Edelman. Now, he only scored 5 points in his first week back. But the thing is, this guy is coming off his last game he actually played in. That was a real football game. Was not last year's Super Bowl, but the one before. And I know you're like, oh, so many Super Bowls. That's right. And they're at these Super Bowls because Julian Edelman's a beast. All right. He's going to be fine. He caught a lot of balls. He actually missed a deep throw. Sorry. 1 a.m. while making video. He missed a deep ball. Would have gone for a 40-yard pass. Maybe not gotten in the end zone, but it would have been huge, and it changes his 5-point night into like a 9 or a 10-point night. So don't worry about Jules. He's going to be fine. He's going to get his targets. He's going to get his catches, and eventually he'll start getting in the end zone again. So No worries on Julian Edelman. He is Tom Brady's binky. He's going to be fine. Start the guy. Matt Ryan. Listen, he's been great all season. If you've been rolling him out week after week, good for you. You gotten a lot of points. If you've been hanging on to him on your bench because you drafted a good quarterback, and this week you finally said he scored so many points, woo, I'm going to start him against this awful Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Like I told you to do. You would have been wrong, just like I was when he only scored 14 standard points. But Matt Ryan's going to be fine. He's an electric offense with great weapons and Mohamed Sanu. So he's going to be good. He's going to be fine. Don't worry. Feel confident strutting out Matt Ryan every week. Obviously, unless you have drafted someone like Brady or Rodgers or Breeze. Those three I would start over Matt Ryan. And if you have one of those three and Matt Ryan, try trade Matt Ryan for something. Grab yourself like a quality tight end. Package your tight end in Matt Ryan, like Matt Ryan and one of your receivers for a top tier tight end. To like maybe a team that isn't doing so hot and maybe has a crappy quarterback that drafted Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know. They exist, and maybe you can get something for it. So think along those lines. Now, my players to worry about. These are the panic button players. If you got these guys on your roster, man, I'm telling you to get out. And honestly, one of these guys, the first guy I want to talk about, is on my fantasy roster. Now, I'm hoping that I'm wrong here because I have him, but man, I'm rarely wrong about these things. Matt Breida from the San Francisco 49ers. This man is a walking boo-boo, as my kids would call it. He has gotten 3 separate injuries to 3 different parts of his body in the last 3 weeks. First, he hurt his knee, which we all thought he tore his ACL when that shit happened. And then instead, Jimmy G tore his ACL, which is hilarious as a Pats fan. But then he hurts his shoulder the next week. And then this past week, he sprains his goddamn ankle. Now, he's on Monday Night Football, so you cannot trust this man. If you normally start Matt Breida, you got to get him out of your starting lineup. And you got to have some kind of replacement. I want to tell you that I'm more comfortable starting Juszczyk over Alfred Morris, just because he is also injury prone and he's like 49 years old. I'm pretty sure he's probably only 29 actually, but regardless, it feels like he's 100, and he's got knee problems, and I really don't think he's going to do anything this week. So back away from the 49ers running backs, but I mean, especially Breida. I think if they try and tote him out there, he's going to suffer some type of a season-ending injury. I think the 49ers need to sit him this week, get him healthy, and then maybe he performs going forward. Breida owners like myself, what we should be hoping for is for them to sit Breida for a week, let him heal up. Then the next week, hopefully he goes out there, scores 15 points, has a big week, and then we can trade him. He's just going to go a week on the field without getting hurt, and then he might be worth something. But trust me, you want to cut bait with this guy. Next is Amari Cooper. Listen, you should have cut bait with Amari Cooper weeks ago. John Gruden told us all at the beginning of the season that Amari Cooper was going to be a focal point of the Steelers' offense. He said it. He said it out loud. I heard that asshole. He said it. People on TV have said it. Hey, we talked to John Gruden, and Amari Cooper's going to be a big focal point of the Raiders' offense this year. They had a bad week 1. He had a good week 2. And then he remembered he was Dropsykins Amari Cooper. Man, this guy sucks. He can't run proper routes. He can't get open. And when he does get open, he just drops the damn ball because that's just his thing. Jordy Nelson is more reliable target. Carr's going to throw to Jordy before he's going to throw to Carr. I mean, throw to Cooper. And it looks like he's actually looking for Martavis Bryant before Cooper now, too. So, I wish I could stop yawning, but I mean, I just had like 2 brownies, too, because I'm a fat guy. I love brownies. But I digress. Um, Amari Cooper's going to be trashed the rest of the year. Let's put it this way. He is not even second or third in targets for his team. Jared Cook, Jordy Nelson, and even backup running back Jalen Richard have more catches this season than Amari Cooper. That's how scared you should be of Amari Cooper. If some moron is willing to trade a 6-pack of beer for Amari Cooper, take it. It's okay. Just give him away. You'll have an empty roster spot that you can go get Kiki Cutie like I told you to. And now you got beer. Just saying. Beer time. Last one. Will Fuller, the 5th. Along that lines of Kiki Cutie being a great waiver ad, Will Fuller, time to bail on this guy. He's got a name, and he scored some points a couple weeks ago. Now, what that means is that he's not awfully ranked, so he might be worth something. I don't know what he's exactly worth. Maybe like a Taylor Gabriel, which is a good bench stash for now, which is better than what he is. Because, like I said, Will Fuller's trash. So I might even trade Will Fuller for like a Taylor Gabriel or an Allen Robinson, maybe, if you could get someone dumb enough to do that. But just someone along that lines. That's a receiver that's probably ranked in between, let's say, 20 and 35 right now. Maybe you can get one of those for Will Fuller, someone dumb enough to think that just because Deshaun Watson's coming alive and actually throwing the ball around the field, that maybe he'll have that magic he had with him last year before he got hurt, where he's just heaving up touchdown passes down the field. Trust me, that's not going to happen this year. Will Fuller's going to be a boomer bust. He's going to be Robbie Anderson. He's going to score 15 or 16 fantasy points, again, in standard leagues, and then he's going to disappear for 3 weeks. And there's no way that you can win a championship with a player like that. Again, same thing as Robbie Anderson. You can't have a guy go ghost, and then show up big when you're in the playoffs. The minute one of these guys goes ghost on you, boom, you're gone in your league. Unless you're playing with a bunch of douches who don't know how to fucking play fantasy football, and you can just score 82 points in a week and win. I play in a league where that doesn't happen. If you don't score 110, 120, and again, this is non PPR, it's standard scoring. That's a lot of points for standard scoring. If you can't score that many points in my league, you're usually toast. Under 100 points, and you're definitely dead as a doornail in my league. So you really can't sit there and take a 0 when you need all your players to average at least 10 points every week. Again, non-PPR. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it's a little bit informative. Really tells you guys who not to pick up this week. Don't waste your waiver claims. If you have a low waiver claim and you don't think you're going to get any of these guys, then kind of back off. Since I actually wrote this article, I do have a couple quick amendments, guys, that you should really target in the waiver wire. I like Corey Clement over Wendell Smallwood. Now that J.H.I.'s toast. I actually originally had Smallwood on my Fool's Gold list this week until I learned that Ajayi got hurt. And then now I'm thinking, well, maybe Smallwood is slightly worth something, so I can't really technically call him Fool's Gold. But trust me, Clement has the better skill set to be a running back. And Jamal Charles He's kind of a flyer. He's a stasher. Jamal Charles signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars today. TJ Yeldon's soft as baby shit, and he gets hurt a lot. And they might like him better as a pass catching back if Jamal Charles can run for 4.5 yards a carry like he did last season with Denver. He might be better than you people think. I know everybody says he's old, but he's still Jamal Charles. He's still fast. He's still got the moves and great vision down the field, and he catches the ball in the backfield. I think if he gets a chance, there's a chance that he's a good flyer. Uh, Pick him up, stash him on your bench. Don't start him. Wait until he technically wins the job, and if he doesn't do anything in 3 weeks, then drop him. It's a mild time investment. I got someone in my league who said Des Bryant on their goddamn team all year. So I mean, really, you can't get worse than that, right? Only other thing is right now, LaShawn McCoy is selling low, and I've heard rumors that he may be reuniting with his team in Philadelphia. If he gets traded to Philly, Clement and Smallwood are garbage, but LaShawn McCoy is a legitimate RB1 for the remainder of the season until he gets, suspended for beating up his girl or whatever the hell he did. So that's it. If you guys like the video, please subscribe to my channel. Do more content every week. Like the video, make some comments. If you guys have start-sit questions for me for your matchups this week, you can at me on Twitter. You can send me a DM at MacDizzle1405. Hey, it was my screen name for AOL when I was 12, so fucking get over it. MacDizzle was cool 20 years ago. It might not be cool now, but it was then. I'm here to answer your questions and not only just tell you who to start, but I'll tell you why. That way you can make an informed decision for yourself. Until next time, deuces, bitches.